This is Bob Sansevere. I'm here with Vikings beat writers Rick Alonzo, Sean Jensen, and Pioneer Press Deputy Sports Editor John Plume. It's no longer if, it's obviously a when. Sean and Rick, when do you see this announcement coming about Brett Favre that he's signed and he's ready to go? You think a couple of days before camp? Will he try to stretch it until after camp starts and say, well, my doctor hasn't given the okay yet?
No, I think he'll probably do it just before the, maybe next week or a little bit after that. I think you want to give yourself enough time before training camp just for the team to sort of get ready for it. I think the timing also of Steve McNair's death, the other day, probably pushed it back. If it was going to be this week, it probably pushed it back because Bus Cook represented Steve McNair as well.
That does make sense. Sean, you did the article, I think, with the about the players that are disgruntled or they prefer seeing Tavares Jackson. I'm a little confused by what they see in him when Brett Favre, even if he's not the player he was, he's still going to make defenses respect him a lot more.
Who cares about practice? I mean, you got to get it done on Sundays. That's my point.
I'll say this though about that: there are players that wouldn't mind having Brett Favre coming, but they just don't like this whole thing dragging out. It's not to say that guys don't want Brett Favre here, but I just think there are some that sort of have the sentiment of, Tavares has done his part, he's doing the best he can, and hoping that he gets that chance.
Well, John, do you think some of that also could be that these guys right now, they are Tavares Jackson's teammate? They don't want to make it sound like they're all giddy and excited to have Brett Favre come in to try to...
Well, you have to admire his teammates' loyalty toward him. They want to, like Rick was saying, they want to see him do well. I think most people would want to see him do well. He's a second-round draft pick. They have 3 years invested in him. But on the other hand, do you want to win 7 or 8 games, or do you want to be able to win 10, 11, or 12 games and get in the playoffs and have a shot at going for a ring? And who gives you the best chance to do that? I think most people would say that's Brett Favre.
Now, Sean, both you and Rick have been on top of this Antoine Winfield situation. How fractious could this get with the team? I mean, he seems like he's not exactly pleased. He's not coming, he's not the happiest camper.
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to what happened with Pat, two off seasons ago in terms of, wanting a contract proactively. Pat ended up getting it. He played it out, was patient, took some shots at the team, but never anything that sort of closed the door or anything. And, I think he's definitely frustrated, and he
does have some great ability. I mean, he could be upset with it, but I don't think it'll affect him as the way he plays.
Antoine clearly wants to be here. The guy was a huge, huge playmaker. I mean, who was more fun to watch last year than Antoine Winfield? I mean, I would say that he was, probably more fun to watch than Adrian Peterson in some ways, just because of the huge plays he made, and wow, some of those touchdowns.
Many of them are done at 32. He looks like he can play several more years. Is he the best cornerback the Vikings have ever had?
Boy, I don't know. They've had some really good cornerbacks.
Well, go back to Carl Lee was a good cornerback.
He was an all-pro corner for 2 years. I mean, Reggie Rutland wasn't a bad player for 2 years.
I would take Antoine over either one of them.
But cornerback, he'd have to be right there.
And we'll leave it at that. Rick, Sean, John, I got a feeling we'll be talking Favre again someday, real soon.